All right, guys, hey, UFC 323 just wrapped this Jamil. This boy flight now for 3 hours. He going to the airport. What's wrong with you?
Look, I just came out to see my guy.
This dude.
This dude.
Bro, you don't even go to the airport 3 hours in advance. I know they try to say black people be late, but that's too early, man. You tripping.
I don't got the DC money.
Get your ass out of here. Guys, UFC 323 just wrapped, and it was a crazy night, man. We had some phenomenal performances, but ultimately the night belonged to the great Petr Yan. Tonight, Petr Yan fought the fight of his life, taking the championship from Merab Dvalishvili, and on the scorecards, turned out being a wipeout. This post-fight reaction video is brought to you by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. They're in your corner with unlimited 5G data that will not slow you down. Petr Yan told anyone that would listen that he was going to be better tonight. What I don't think people could have imagined was how good he was going to look. His striking looked amazing. You know, one of the things about fight number one that we talked about a lot in the build was that Petr Yan defended 39 takedowns. Merab just shot 49 takedowns. Tonight, Petr Yan defended 27 of 29 takedowns from Merab Dvalishvili, forcing him to stand and trade. We all know Petr Yan is a master of sport in boxing. Petr Yan is a sniper. Petr Yan is a guy that you do not want to be forced to stand with. And then not only did he do a great job with his striking, Petr was the one that found a lot of success with his wrestling. Because I don't know that Merab Dvalishvili expected him to be taking him down, but we know that Petr Yan has that ability. Tonight, that was on full display, and he was able to become the bantamweight champion for a second time. His footwork, his movement, his cardio. We were talking after the fight. His workload in camp to getting that type of shape must have been insane, because it looked like he got a little tired down the stretch in like round 2, round 3, and then he just took off. We had this thought that to beat Merab, you had to win rounds 1, 2, 3. Tonight, Petr Yan won round 3, 4, and 5 across the board. Even on the card that scored in 48-47, Petr won 3, 4, and 5. It was an absolute masterpiece by Petr Yan. Merab found some success early in the striking, and because he didn't wrestle early enough, I think it gave Petr a confidence that the takedowns would not be coming at him at the rate that they came at him in fight number one, and they did, because he was attacked 49 times in fight one, only 29 times in fight two. Petr Yan's the man. And it was very crazy in the build how people forgot how he was thought of during his run as the UFC bantamweight champion. Many thought for a long time that he was going to be very hard to beat. But it's short memories is what people have in mixed martial arts, and at times you have to remind them. And tonight, that's exactly what Petr Yan did. Merab Dvalishvili is not the UFC champion anymore. Merab had one of the most memorable reigns that we have ever seen. Merab tried to defend that belt 4 times. And there should be some credit given to him for even attempting to do what so many people believe is absolutely impossible. It's impossible to do what Merab was attempting. Because if anyone was going to do it, it was going to be Merab. Because he seemed to have a great style for the division, and he was in there with a guy that he had beaten before. But through Petr Yan's adjustments and how daunting the task was, Merab got beat. But I honestly believe that his stock rose in that performance. Because even though he lost, he fought his ass off, and he took more chances than we had ever seen him take. But ultimately, the night belonged to Petr Yan. In the co-main event, Alexandre Pantoja fought Joshua Van for the UFC Flyweight Championship. The fight starts amazing. They are just throwing. Pantoja throws a head kick. It lands on Van's shoulder. As Van is pressing into him, Pantoja posts, dislocates his shoulder. Fight's over. Joshua Van could have teed off on him. He didn't. He knew he was hurt. Great sportsmanship out of new champ. Pantoja immediately knew he was hurt. Laid on his back. Recognized he was out. Herb Dean stops the fight. Crazy situation. Because that was an all-time great title reign that was ended on an action that you do just about every single day in fighting, wrestling, or any type of combat sport. Unfortunately, it ended the reign of Pantoja. But Josh Van is now the second youngest champion in UFC history at only 24 years old. That fight started in a way that almost guaranteed that we were about to be watching an all-time classic. Those guys were going at it. It only lasted 20 seconds. Pantoja was on the gas. Joshua Van was smiling, almost like, yo, this is what we're doing. I'm so happy. I'm excited to see what happens next for Joshua Van. Because you know he'll be willing to fight very, very soon. And he'll be willing to defend that championship very, very soon. You cannot feel nothing but happiness for Van because he's as sweet a kid as you will ever meet in your entire life. He's in this job that he dreamt of for so long, and now he's achieved that, and he's reached the height of the sport by becoming a UFC champion. The one thing that he got that not many champions get is he knows who his next opponent will be, and that is going to be Tatsuro Taira, who beat Brandon Moreno in the third fight from the top. I didn't love the stoppage there, if I'm being completely honest. I know Moreno was in a horrible position, but I think when you have a champion like Moreno, a guy who's been around as long as he has, and a guy that is moving on the bottom, you have to give him time to try and recover. The moment the ref stopped the fight, Moreno looked up and said, really? Look, man, nothing may have changed, but at least let it be definitive so that Moreno understands and doesn't feel slighted. And it doesn't really hurt Tatsuro Taira as he's trying to earn his championship opportunity. I am just glad that they're moving forward with Tatsuro Taira as the next title challenge. And I believe that him and Joshua Van will be a phenomenal fight. Oh, excuse me, guys. Henry Cejudo and Payton Talbott fought an absolute classic. Henry Cejudo said he wanted to go out on his shield and do it the right way as his career ended. That's exactly what he did tonight. But it was a showcase for Payton Talbott and his skills. That young man fought his ass off. He should be very proud. He got beat a couple fights ago. But since he has returned now, he's won 2 in a row, and he's looking increasingly better. He scored 2 takedowns on Cejudo. There's no way Cejudo could have imagined that the kid would be taking him down. That shows you the levels that Payton Talbott is jumping every single time he steps into the octagon. Bohovic and Guskov was a draw, which it was. Manuel Torres knocked out Grant Dawson, showing that he's one of the best fighters in the world. Chris Duncan and Terrence McKinney had a crazy fight. I didn't love that the fight wasn't stopped earlier. It looked like McKinney knew he was out. The ref just didn't stop the fight. So the moment that Duncan put on the submission, he tapped. Sometimes you got to read the fighter's body language and then do what you're in there to do, and that stopped the fight. Macy Barber had a big win over Karine Silva. Fares Zion fought his ass off and beat Nazim Sadikov. Bruno Ferreira beat Marvin Vittori. Jalen Turner had a nasty knockout over Edson Jr. Barbosa. That dude looked phenomenal. Mansour Abdul Malik beat Antron Chocoli. Awesome. Great performance by that young man. Marlon Santos won by TKO. Bad fight, but ultimately it ended very well. But the fight for me was Iwo Baraneski versus Ivo Aslan. And that is going to be my total wireless performance of the night. that was the best fight I have ever seen inside the octagon. Not for the skill. It felt like Dana White Contender Series with two guys that were just better, so the fight lasted longer. It was awesome, guys. If you have not watched Ibo Aslan take on Iwan Baraneski, go watch it today. It's on the early prelims, and it was crazy. You know that my Total Wireless performance of the night generally goes to someone higher up on the card. Tonight it goes to both of these gentlemen for what they showed us on the prelims. That's the end of the pay-per-view era, and that's the end of the ESPN era. Guys, I'm taking this Mike flag home with me, because for a kid that grew up in Louisiana, to say that I worked for ESPN is a dream come true. Everybody at the UFC loved the time that we had at ESPN. I will always remember my time here. I will always remember DC and Helwani, DC and RC, and Good Guy, Bad Guy. The fact that the Worldwide Leader gave me shows with 3 different partners means the world to me. So thank you, ESPN, for elevating my career, making me even bigger and better than I ever could have imagined. And thank you guys so much for taking the chance on the UFC, because the partnership between the UFC and ESPN has helped the UFC to grow to an even bigger place. In the end of pay-per-view, hey, the world always changes. I always get sad with change, guys, but I figure we'll all be okay. The fights are free, so that means I'm happy for you guys. All you got to do is get a subscription, obviously, to Paramount Plus, but no more pay-per-view. Unbelievable how much things have changed. Guys, thank you so much for this year. It has been a banner year for us at DCTV. The growth that we have had far exceeded what we did last year in every single metric, and it's all because of every single one of you. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I will still be talking to you guys on the channel, but from an arena, this is it. I will see you guys in January for the next UFC numbered card and the first UFC number card on Paramount Plus /CBS. Thank you guys. I love each and every one of you. Till next time, like, subscribe, and tell your friends about DC's YouTube channel. Peace. Coach, UFC champion Petr Yan fought the most amazing fight. Did you expect it to go this way?
Ожидал ли ты, что бой именно так пройдет?
Я ожидал, но думал, будет чуть тяжелее.
I expected it, but I thought it's going to be a lot tougher.
He was able to defend takedowns in the first fight. Did you expect Merab to shoot more in the second fight? Were you surprised at how much he was willing to stand with Petr?
В первом бою Петр защитился от многих тейкдаунов, но Мераб его переводил. Удивлен ли ты, что Мераб в этом бою меньше боролся и больше времени в стойке был проводил?
Я думаю, что просто Мераб попытался сделать тейкдаун, но у него не пошло, поэтому Петр их все остановил и сломал ему тем самым бой.
I think Merab was trying to do takedowns, but he couldn't. Petr didn't let him to do it. That's why he broke his game plan. You know?
I got a question for you. So we were talking about his shape and his cardio. How heavy was his workload to get in that type of shape? Because he looked like he was the one that was fresher in the 5th round, as Merab seemed to be tiring.
И мы говорили о его кардио, насколько было впечатляющее кардио и ту работу, которую он проделал. Он выглядел намного свежее в 5-м раунде, чем Мераб. То есть какую работу он проделал, чтобы быть в такой форме?
Работу основную это сделал Кайрат Нурмагомедов. Вот. Был хороший лагерь и почти подошли к бою без травм, поэтому Петр никогда не проседал в боях.
The main work was done by the head coach in the camp, Kairat. He doesn't have visa, so he couldn't be here. And they did their best, you know. They had a great camp, and that's why he was able to do it.
Well, he's the man now again, so congratulations.
Thank you.
UFC champion.